and welcome to KnightHunter Books. We've gone for a bit of a different setting because it's Christmas and I wanted to get the tree in the frame. Today I'm going to talk about one particular book I've read this month and do a bit of a review for you, which is UFO in Her Eyes by Xiao Luguo. So the author is British-Chinese. From anyone who's seen my TBR video, you'll know that I'm doing a bit of a focus in on Chinese stories this month. And this was actually the first that I finished, and I quite liked it. It was, I rated it 3.75 stars, because I did find it very entertaining, informative, and also quite different. So this author is actually a filmmaker as well as a novelist, which I think does stand out in the way she's used visuals to tell the story as well as text. And she's written quite a few other novels for an English audience. I think her most famous is probably A Concise Chinese English Dictionary for Lovers. So this book was written in 2009. It's quite a short book, it's only a few hundred pages. And it follows a village as it goes through a kind of accelerated development over just a few years, set kind of in the current day. And this is triggered by one villager who, when she's walking out in a rice field, sees a UFO and then also happens to bump into a Westerner. So, as you can probably imagine, the Chinese government are quite interested in this incident, and then the head of the village kind of takes advantage of this attention to see if she can spur the village on into the future, so put on a publicity campaign and try and put the village on the map. When I was saying this was told in quite an interesting way, that is actually what caught my eye when I saw this in the library, is that it's actually completely made up of found documents. A lot of it is told through interrogation tapes, so from when those government agents are interviewing the villagers about this incident and what comes after. But there's also sketch maps in there to show the village kind of at the beginning and then as it progresses, and there's some nice kind of scrawled notes from the agents themselves having kind of opinions on what the villagers are saying, and a few emails between them and their bosses. So a really interesting way of telling the story, I found, that worked really well. One thing I did quite like about this was that the characters actually came across really well. So I suppose with a way of telling a story like this, then you can end up a bit separated from what's going on. But actually I found all the characters really distinctive, they had their own voices, they were quite funny as well, and the villagers were particularly bad at actually staying on topic, which as a reader was great, because that meant that one thing I wanted to get from this was learn a bit more about China, and through some of the older citizens of the village then I got to learn about Mao's Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution in China and all those kinds of historic events. This is also a very satirical book, and I know some readers from looking at other reviews found it quite heavy-handed, and there are certainly some quite absurd elements in the story. And what the author does share about Chinese history is quite basic as well, so I found it a really good introduction, but I think someone who already knows about all these things would probably find that there isn't enough detail there. Being a satirical take on the kind of modernisation in China, I found the found documents actually worked quite well as well, just to allow me to make up my own mind about what was going on. But yeah, overall I thought it was a really good book. It grabbed me straight away and I felt quite involved in the lives of all these different villagers. One thing I would mention is I was slightly drawn in by the word UFO in the title, and I wouldn't suggest picking up this book if you are looking for a science fiction book, because there isn't really any science fiction in there. So be a little wary of that. Okay, so let me know if you've read this book, if you have any thoughts on it, or if you've read any other books by this author, maybe where I should go next. And just generally, I'm trying to read a lot of Chinese stories this month, so if you have any more recommendations for that, then please let me know. Thank you for watching, I'll see you again soon.